you for joining us today for the July WMN Live Series. I am so excited for this month's topic because as we are taking information from our group and really listening in to what we need in order to continue to get better, this topic kept coming up, which is mastering follow through, a guide for mortgage brokers. Today, we have two experts that are going to present to us. And the first step is creating self-awareness and how we are going to improve our executive function. And then once we understand ourselves, we will dive into how to apply our strengths into maximizing our follow-up and our follow-through by using a specific example. Let's meet our incredible speakers. First up, we have Megan Marsh, a 20-year powerhouse in real estate and the mortgage business. Also, entrepreneurship. She is revolutionizing the industry by making business ownership and income more accessible and profitable for all aspiring loan officers so that they can make a bigger impact within their local communities. Also, we have the joy of having Dion Bass. She has a 25-year experience in the mortgage banking and lending realm. She's also the founder of The Underwriter and the creator of the mentoring group Underwriting Secrets Revealed. Dion has worked as a contract underwriter for 3 major MI companies, as well as underwritten for several major lending institutions. She has been writing and performing seminars, webinars, and workshops for various mortgage professionals and industry partners for 18 years. So at this time, we are going to dive in so that we can all learn how to get better ourselves, as well as how to apply that to our businesses. At this time, I'll hand it over to Megan to get us kicked off.
Thank you, Laura. Hi, guys. I'm Megan Marsh, and I am going to share a little story with you because I said this morning to my husband, my business partner. If I sent a text message to my mom, my sister, people in my life who know me, that I was going to be on here today doing a live for everyone about mastering follow through, organization, all the things we're going to talk about. If they could get in this group, they'd be roasting me. And so I want to share with you guys, how I went from feeling like a complete and total disaster to kind of getting things together, because I feel like I do see the same thing in the groups with women where we're always saying like, I can't get myself organized, or how do I just feel like I'm constantly jumping all over the place. And I do think it's a topic that would help a lot of people in your business. And if we could bring up a picture, just so you can see how much this is a topic that is close to my heart. This was a photo shoot I did, just going through all the emotions we go through in this industry for different reasons, clients, all the stuff that gets thrown at us, losing our minds. And I ended up putting it into a talk called Mental Warfare. And mental warfare for me is about taking control, which we all can do. And taking control of things really starts with making decisions. So I don't know. Oh, I can do it. Here we go. Perfect. So in order to take control, you got to kind of understand a few things. So how it came together for me was about 8 years ago. I had 3 kids at the time. And my oldest, my daughter, Mackenzie, she was really struggling. And I was really struggling too, if I was going to admit it. And I had missed a hair appointment for like the 3rd time. I was mortified. My daughter was struggling in school emotionally. And so I ended up taking the 2 of us and going and getting her evaluated, and myself for ADHD. And I always hear loan officers saying that. And someone who really has ADHD, a lot of times they put my daughter on medication, which I got a lot of slack for. But the thing that happened that helped me so much was by putting her on medication. This was the first day I put her on medication. The writing on the left was in the morning. Tried her medication on the first day. This is the same document on the right, and that's her writing. This medication slowed her brain down, got her zoned in, and all of a sudden, I'm like, I need to learn everything I can about ADHD. And that was when I got introduced by starting to meet her teachers, the therapist she was working with, that we all have this thing called executive functions. And it's the opposite. You maybe have heard of what's called our cognitive functions. Our cognitive functions, we have no control over. Some, as you age, your cognitive functions decline. But this is the really cool part about executive functions is that we have control over our executive functions. We can do things to get better at them. We can change our environment. We can learn skills. We can do all these things to get better at doing. And that's what executive functions are. And once I learned about them from elementary school teachers that worked with my daughter, I'm like, this is for everyone. This isn't just for a child with ADHD. Like, this is for me. This is for my team. I have my team members take this stuff because it's all how you do things. So if you look here on this little diagram, there's, I think it's 11 or 12 executive functions. So it's impulse control. How do you respond in situations? It's organization, your ability to keep your information organized. It's emotional control. It's task initiation. So your ability to start and do things. Then at the bottom, planning and prioritizing. What do you do first? What do you do second? What do you do later? Self-monitoring, attention control, working memory. So I know we'll be sharing with you guys a little quiz you can take to see yours here at some point during this live or by the end that you can have. But mine was organization. My weakest ones were organization, time management, and working memory. So I was forgetting things, missing appointments. And so it was through using some of these skills that you're going to learn by learning from other people who are better at them that I slowly started getting better to the point where today, I think that's even why somebody said, oh, you should reach out and have Megan do this topic, because I am in meetings all the time now. And the saying that I hear people say is Megan's one of the most organized people you will ever meet. And I laugh, and everyone in my life laughs. But that's okay, right? Like, that's what it's about. You can change, you can take control. And so this is such a cool area of your life that you can learn with. So before I start introducing you to who's going to be up next and who's going to show you actual strategies that you can use in mortgage, because there's so many different ways, like I kind of brought up like the types of things now that I do in my business to organize. So when a new team member comes in, say you want to hire an LOA, that's a bookmark organizer that visually is easy for me. I map out where I want people saving things in our shared drives. I mean, this is just kind of touching on the types of things I had to figure out to get organized. And this doesn't matter if it's mortgage. This could be home with your family, chores. I don't do stuff where it has to be organized because my husband would kill me. And so it's finding peace in your life, and you'll enjoy your job better. You'll enjoy your home life better, and the people, in your life better. So I'm excited for you all to learn more about these executive functions. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to hand this off to Dion, and Dion is our expert who is really going to dig into some strategies for you.
Hi, everyone. This is so exciting for me because Megan really set the stage for just a few things that I kind of want to go over with you guys to kind of get you started on. I love how she said this, taking control. And it's just a decision. She's absolutely correct. So if I could just share my screen, I will show you exactly what I'm talking about. The 4 key areas I'm going to go through, and I promise you I'm not going to hold you on here for a long time, is file structure, time management, getting things done by delegating, and consistency. File structure is huge. And a lot of that has to do with some of the stuff that Megan is going to share with you when she sends you that really cool checklist. Because planning and prioritizing and task initiation, if those are your weaknesses, then file structure is going to be your best friend. What do I mean by file structure? I'm talking about making sure that certain sections on your application are complete in the employment and income section, because depending on the program, that could knock your loan out, but you would have known this beforehand, had that section been complete. Keep an income calculation worksheet. Contact me later. I'll kind of refer you to some really good ones. Your deep dives in that credit report and actually reading at AUS, that right there is going to set you apart. And the reason why it's going to set you apart is because once you do that deep dive and you make sure that all three of these things match, you're going to have a smooth pass off to your processor. Now you guys aren't going back and forth. Now you're on the same page. Time management. Please, please, please don't be offended when I say this, but pick a routine and then just do it. Don't beat yourself up. Just do it and continue doing it. And the reason why I say that is because this is what Megan was talking about when she said taking control and making a decision, because you can love the idea of that time management idea and you can still make it your own to fit your own personality. I'm sure that when she worked with her daughter, that she made sure what she was doing fit her daughter's situation. And it's the same thing here. Make it your own. When you're getting things done, you got to take your hands off of it when you pass that to your processor, your LOA. Okay. If you're going to give it to them, do not take it back. How can they do their job if you keep taking it back? That comes along with making it your own. Use the tools that you have. I don't want to shout out any names, but there's some really great LOS softwares out there that have tools that you can use to keep you guys on the same page. Consistency. Even if you can't afford a mentor or coach, if you can find yourself an accountability partner, and Laura talked about this, Laura talked about us all supporting each other as a community. There are so many people inside of our women's group. Grab someone and ask them, listen, please, can you hold me accountable for this or that so that I can reach whatever goal I'm going? That's what it comes down to, making sure that you just keep going until you reach that goal. But grab yourself an accountability partner. Last but not least, don't stop. It's going to look messy. It's going to look a little whatever have like when you first do your garden, you stick in your hand in that dirt and it's bugs and stuff all in there. But what's going to come out of there is beautiful fruits, vegetables, a tree. Keep the end in mind. Just keep the end in mind. And that's all I've got for you. I hope that those tips helped you. If you want a copy of the PowerPoint, reach out to us and let us know.
Okay, ladies, that was phenomenal. Okay, and we want to dive a little deeper now. Thank you for doing the presentation, kind of giving us a high level. Now let's go into the discussion. Okay, so Megan, executive functions. Okay, now for everyone out there listening, we are going to share in the groups that little quiz. I will tell you, I took the quiz and I went through and as soon as I kind of saw my scores, there was overlap, like where you can see that certain themes, you can see that strength, but then you can also see where there are some things that we do have to work on. So Megan, since you have already gone through this process, can you tell us a little bit, as people take this quiz, get the information, what would be your recommendation as you are seeing, here's my strength and my themes that go with this, and here are some of those weak points. How did you approach it?
So there's actually a book that I recommend you could get. And it's, I don't know if we were going to pull it up. It's called, it is, gosh, now I'm going to forget the name of the book that.
It's called The Smart But Scattered Guide.
See, there's my working memory again. So it's called The Smart But Scattered Guide. So they have multiple versions. I had originally bought the one for my daughter, and then I bought the one for adults, which is the one we just named. And it has a quiz. It has the quiz in there you always have to know yourself first, right? you can take the quiz. But what's really cool about this book, it's almost like a workbook. It's got charts and systems and schedules. I mean, it's got all these things to help organize yourselves that you can use. And then I took them for myself and plugged them into my mortgage business and in my life, right? Because we each do have our own unique ways that we use things. I still today use the same system that I built when I read the book. So I would highly recommend for everyone to read the book. But the key is, when you pick a goal, like I'm a big goal person, and I set my goals for the year, but then I break it down by quarters. And this is part of what I do, because if you set a goal to go after, but you don't know what your weaknesses are and they keep messing you up and they keep getting in your way, you're just going to get frustrated and give up on them. But if you can identify, and that's what I liked about this quiz, is it identified the weaknesses you had and use the ones that you're stronger at. For me, it was called goal-directed persistence, where I keep going and I'll fight and I'll keep, digging in. Then, it made me fight to get better at these things I was really bad at, so that it wasn't a frustration anymore. Because for all of you out there, if you work as an individual, which none of us work as individuals, the habits you have get you only so far. When you work by yourself. When you start working with others, which we all work with processors, if you ever want to bring on an LOA, grow a team, grow a company, you have to start developing systems that other people can plug into, and they can't plug into your habits. And so I was trying to do that when I first started growing. As soon as I started doing this type of stuff, that's when stuff really started to happen.
So do you use this system in every situation? Like you gave a really good example when you said, if I onboard someone, I have to tell them this is where you save things, like down to the detail of, as that is a great example, right? So do you apply this in all scenarios, meaning personally and professionally? And
yes.
Okay, great. That's awesome.
Yes. Like literally yesterday in one of my companies, we have a newer employee, and I can tell he's struggling where to find things, because I waited and he's in sales. And so I said, look, let's go. We opened up, I use mind maps as one tool I use. And so we opened it up. I said, let's map out what the sales folder is going to look like and where we're going to save stuff, because we all need to be on the same page. So we know exactly where to save it, what to name it. I was a loan officer that did sales. I could have given two hoots about stuff like this before. But now I get it, right? And I own a processing company. Like Dion said in here, like file structure, that's the biggest complaint. Now that I'm on the back end, that I see our processors, they can close stuff like this if you are strong at what you do. And helping your processor is only helping yourself. And I think if a lot of people would really dig into this stuff, you would see your business transform. Because for me, when I started doing this, I got stuck for 5 years closing about 150 loans. Within 2-3 years, I was closing 300-400 loans, because it allows you to grow as a person and bring other people in on these really, really great things that you can do in your life. And for all of you moms or dads who are raising your kids, you're going to teach your kids the same habits, and you're going to teach them how to be successful and how to, we talked a lot in this about these like more task ones, but it's also the emotional and stress tolerance are the other parts of it. So if you struggle with that piece, it's just a great way to look at everything we deal with in this industry.
Yeah. And it's the basic foundational stuff that no one ever teaches. I mean, if you think about it, like, that's why I love the example of where to save it, because if you think about it, like you said, in the sales side, no one ever thinks about that. No one ever thinks about how to replicate and scaling. We all know the struggle of scaling. So Dion, I mean, you've been on that operations side for many, many years. You've obviously seen all the different ways. So let me take a little bit of what Megan's, process flow in terms of the executive functions. How do you think you can apply it even further from the file structure? I mean, take it a little deeper of where else you see that plugging in.
I am so glad you asked me that question because I literally wrote down, Megan just said, build systems that other people can plug into. We're not telling you to underwrite the loan. The secret to underwriting secrets revealed is that there is no secret. Guidelines are everywhere. You can log in, you could search, you can find guidelines everywhere. But when you build a system that people can plug into, when you go through that application with a fine tuned comb, when you go through that credit report, when you go through those AUS findings, when you look at that income, get help if you don't understand something, you have set yourself up for your processor to plug right in because they know what's coming. There's nothing worse than having a file, handing it off to your processor, and then they're getting blindsided and Mike Tyson and whoever else boxer that you can think of because all this stuff is coming at them.
Dion, I was going to tell you one of the best things I ever did with my team a couple years ago was I brought the loan officers into a meeting and I made them take each other's files like a processor would and look at the file and they had to on the spot tell the other loan officers what that other loan officer's file, what type of house it was, what was going on. They couldn't.
Yes. Yeah. And so I do want to say this because everybody is probably listening and saying, I don't want to go through that. But when I underwrite a loan, I do an extremely deep dive. And you want to know why I do an extremely deep dive? Because I cannot underwrite that file again. When the conditions come in, the underwrite is done. I don't have time to re-underwrite that file. Think about the term times for conditions. You got to get that condition in and you got to get that condition out. So underwriters are looking in that file and they're digging from the rooter to the tutor. And so from your standpoint, from a sales standpoint, from an LOA standpoint, you don't even have to look at as much information as I do because I've got the whole entire file. You've got like this little small abbreviated. Dig deep so that you don't have to go back. And that's what underwriters do. Underwriters dig deep so that they don't have to go back. We cannot underwrite a loan every time a condition comes in. We have to meet whatever that condition is and keep it moving so that, as Laura used to say, so that we could put those families in those homes.
Exactly. Now I want to apply the follow-up and follow through. Okay, we've spoken about how we need to learn ourselves first, right? So we have our executive functioning. Then we were able to apply it to preparing a wonderful, clean file that can be passed along easily through by telling the story and having it complete. Now I want to dive into the follow up and follow through because it's one thing to set up our processes. And yes, some of the follow through can be in the process. But I'm telling you, one of the things that we see a lot in our industry is that we're not necessarily preparing for that future of keeping that connection, having that follow through, and we're having to reinvent the wheel over and over again. So Megan first and then Dion, I'd love your thoughts and your recommendations and where we can go with putting that process in place. How do we hold ourselves accountable, right? Or work within our community to hold ourselves accountable because guys, we're in this for the long haul. We're here. We know the last couple of years, it's all about perseverance, but that perseverance, if we put the right processes in place, that will continue on for many, many years to come. So Megan, let us know your thoughts on that.
So I talked earlier about how I do goal setting and planning. So no matter if you are a loan officer working somewhere, if you're a mortgage broker, you own your business, we all have things that we do repetitively on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis. And then we also have projects. And a lot of times you start with a project that turns into a repetitive thing later, right? That's how you start meeting goals is you pick projects. So how I do that is, and that would have been a great one to kind of pull up on the screen. I use a system in my companies called impact areas. And so every company that I own and any, with our family, I sit there when I do my goals and you pick your impact areas. So I'll just give you an example. So if you're a loan officer, impact areas would be marketing. How am I going to market my business? Another area would be sales. What am I going to be doing? Sales activities. Another one could be customer and B2B retention, as an example. And when I do this, I also put like relationships with my family. So I do all these bubbles. Imagine bubbles around my head, which are the most impactful things, the most impactful areas that help me move my business and my life forward. So I have these bubbles, and let's just pick one bubble here. Then I take each bubble and I set off, like I max and say no more than 3. And I say, okay, for follow-up with customers afterwards to get that client, to be a client for life. So let's use customer service. What am I going to do to have that customer? So when we opened our brokerage, we wanted to have a CRM, right, that did A, B, and C. So that's a project. And the other one is we want to have at least one customer appreciation event. So that's, a second little stick or branch from that bubble. And so then when you're looking at your year, so, right, you're planning, you're picking the things that are most important. And then every quarter, I'm looking at this kind of branchy little bubbly tree, which are my impact areas. And you only get to pick 2 to 3 of them each quarter that you work on until they are done. And you don't move on to the next thing until you finish that project that then becomes, okay, I've done this. I've created a CRM. It's moving, and I've put it on my calendar. And then it's the repetitive tasks afterwards of what do I need to keep doing to keep that moving so I can start another project. And that's when your business starts really growing.
Which is very similar to the concept of doing rocks, right? Like we do rocks with setting the rocks for the quarter. And then you're not picking 100 different projects. You're breaking them down by section. And then you have your rocks, and then issues come up you might need to modify. But those are your focus points for the quarter. Megan, I will tell you, listen, that is high level stuff. And for everyone listening to this right now, for everyone in here, it doesn't matter if you are an individual broker owner or whether you are a shop that has 100 employees, 400 employees. These are the types of things that if you're going to scale, you're going to grow, you're going to continue to be able to withstand through any kind of cycle, ups, downs, ins, outs. These are the types of things that you need to be focusing on within your business. So thank you for that.
Yes, and can I add one last thing? And I was going to say this. When I do my bubbles, one of the things the book says that I really kind of really stuck with me was I set my goals with these bubbles and projects, and then I pick one of the executive functions to get better at. So like when I did organization, that's when I started when we started having a management team. That's when I started saying, okay, and I go research, how do you digitally organize with a team? And it would tell me how. So that's a project. That's one of my projects. I need to get better at this for my people. And so I would put it in play and only focus on organization for an entire quarter and then move on to the next executive function that I needed help with so that I could then get better and then help others.
I love it. Dion.
Yes. So my system is a little bit different, and I think it has a lot to do with me being in operations for so long. But I always start with the end in mind. I spoke yesterday Winning Wednesdays for Karina Carter's group at CMS Mortgage, and one of the things that I said to them was, I need you guys to understand something. I never go into a file with I don't know if this is going to work attitude. If I go into a file with I wonder if it's going to work attitude, then it's not going to work. But I go into a file with, we're closing this loan. We might close this loan in 10 days, 2 months, or 6 months. It opens my mind up to making it work. And so with that being said, because I always start with the end in mind, all the steps and all my follow through is consistently pointing toward what I need to do to get to the end. So my advice for follow up and follow through is, if you think about the end, even when you're thinking about Megan's plan, if you're thinking about the end, now you can really plan it, because your steps are going to be, how do I get to the end of this? And that's for anything. I roll courses, I have deadlines for courses. I'm writing that course with the end in mind, whatever that deadline is. So that's my way of follow up.
No,
I
that's
love that. So smart, so smart. And to that point, for everyone that's listening to this, you are going to have what I think Dion mentioned this in her PowerPoint. You have to pick what works best for you,
Yes.
because the thing that works best for you, you have to own it, you have to feel comfortable with it, and you have to stick to it. The consistency of sticking with it. So thank you, Megan and Dion, for coming on and sharing your perspectives and some of your advice and the resources, so that we can share this with the entire group and realize that this may be the full answer for you. This may be a portion of the answer for you, but knowing that every day we are continuing to learn, every day we're continuing to get better, and also knowing we are in this together. We are all, each day, none of us have every single answer of how to do any of this. We are all a work in progress. Dion and Megan, thank you so much for being guest speakers on WMN Live. We truly appreciate all of your insights. We wish you all the best, and we will see everyone next month when Christine Beckwith will be hosting, and we look forward to being with you again. Until then, take care, everyone.
Bye, guys.